I've been watching the show from the beginning. From the first trailer, I thought, wow, I want to watch that. Now I've been through tiring cycles of hope and disappointment, and this movie isn't any different. The whole story is completely pointless. Most of the movie is about characters we already know and remembering who they used to be. We are watching characters' development that we've already seen through the course of the show. I think Steven really says it best towards the end of the movie, that he's re-experiencing everything that has ever happened to him. The movie isn't much different from the show. It's a ton of filler and information we either already know or don't need to know. The main plot is often forgotten and is rushed at the end. The villain looks tough and is really just a damaged little baby who doesn't know any better. And just nothing is left out on the cutting room floor. Everything is just shoved in, like putting every flavor into a cake because you can't decide which flavor you want to bake. It just makes everything come out like a grotesque pile of garbage. Most of the songs in this movie are either poorly written or completely pointless. I like Spinell's songs because they actually mattered and they were really nice to listen to. They were in a style that matched the bounciness of her character, and the lyrics gave us context to her personality and motivations. The other songs either summarize what we already know, are filler, or are just so horrid to sit through. This movie is truly broken to its core. Apart from being a tasteless bowl of hot air, it also has a huge tone problem. First, the movie is a musical. A musical is typically just a normal story with the story's events being represented through songs, meaning that the songs aren't actually taking place in the character's reality. Rather, it's a musical interpretation of the character's thoughts and action. When in Wicked, she sings Defying Gravity, she's not literally singing, but rather it's an interpretation of her feelings of freedom and letting go of what was holding her back. This makes it possible for a musical to have dark themes and serious subject matter, while having a floaty sense of reality and a bunch of singing. But in Steven Universe the movie, the characters mention several times that they are actually singing. Everyone's singing about anything. Steven's singing about his wonderful life and his happily ever after, and Spinell sings about killing Steven and being abandoned and not having anyone care about her, and people leaving her without a moment's notice and for thousands of years. Rebecca wants it to be a floaty, fun musical with dance numbers and singing, but also have the harsh reality of abandonment, which would be fine. But since both realities are taking place in the character's reality at the same time, instead of the songs being interpretations of what's happening, it's all just so disjointed and really jarring. It also makes the floaty reality make less sense in the story. Something that makes sense during a musical number might not make sense when you see that it's actually happening in their universe. There are big problems in this film, but let us not forget the little annoyances. Why is White Diamond reading a book during a live broadcast to all of Gemkind? You're telling me Diamonds haven't made another broadcast for thousands of years? Why after 2 years, Steven and Connie's relationship hasn't progressed at all? Why did Steven and Gardy meet at Lars if he wasn't even going to stay long enough to eat the cake? Why after all these years, Lapis and Peridot's relationship hasn't changed at all? Why hasn't anyone developed in any way since we last saw them? Why does the film end with a dance number with fluffy costumes and an actual stage? And why? Why, knowing what fusion represents, would Sugar find it great to have Steven and his father fuse? That's actually a pretty big one. But still, all these things add up and it's making me sick. Despite all the tonal problems, it's really bland. Most of the shots are straight on, backgrounds are overused and boring. It never matters where they are because they don't ever interact with their surroundings. It's just another set piece just to look at. And Rebecca Sugar has been given plenty of criticism of what not to do, and she has had a chance to redeem herself, and she totally fucked it. She cares so much about her main character learning to change, but she can't learn from her experiences and change herself. She still writes a story with no villain, and the answer always ends up being a little chat to make everything okay. She does everything she wants and doesn't consider how much it will hurt the story. She fills in so much and does so little with her screen time. The shots and camera angles are uninspired and don't emphasize the emotions in any way. There's so much wrong, and I find it unbelievable that she didn't improve. But if she had, this video wouldn't exist. If she at least tried something new and not just stumble about making a shitty product. Rebecca will probably never watch this, but at least people need to know how awful this is. For all you aspiring showrunners out there, please don't aspire to be like Rebecca Sugar, because she is a horrible writer that just happened to be successful. Speaking of terrible writing, let's talk about Spinell. Again, Sugar had a final chance to make a good villain. But not only is Spinell a bad villain, she's also handled so horribly. Her character isn't explored until the end of the movie because we're too focused on learning about characters we already know. And when we finally get to her, we learn why she wasn't mentioned before and that she just sent away with the diamonds, learning nothing about how bad her relationship skills are. Spinell could have learned to be hesitant to new friendships and understand that she can't be the top priority to someone and that she shouldn't make one person her top priority. She could have grown and adjusted to a new and better life. Steven sings to her about making a change, but she's swept away, remaining in the same poor emotional and mental state. It's again another example that Sugar doesn't care. She thinks it's more important to focus on information we already know. She also makes Spinell look like a villain when she thinks Steven is going to betray her. It is her fault that she's so desperate, but Steven didn't even give her a chance. He doesn't try to help Spinell to make her better, but only for his own personal gain. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree when Steven neglects the diamonds after all the hard work that they've put in to try to become better and form a better society. And he only cares about his only little friend circle and his own ego. He manipulates Spinell's feelings to stop the injector and then wants her to leave immediately. Steven has definitely become a teen, because he's certainly rotten and careless as one. Throughout the movie, he doesn't grow out of these characteristics, but rather grows into them. He becomes a crueler and more manipulative person for his own personal gain, just like his mother. This movie is so disjointed and no developments are made. With so much rehashing, I have to ask who this movie was made for. When the movie is spent redeveloping characters and summarizing the story of the show, we may think that this movie is made for a new audience. But you can't really think someone watching this movie hasn't seen the show. Even if that is the case, there also isn't enough information rehashed for everything to make sense to someone who hasn't watched the show before. Who are the diamonds? What did they do? Who are all these characters and how did they meet Steven? And why is Pink Diamond so awful? They wouldn't know. They would need to know for the story to make sense. So there isn't enough information for a new audience, and there's too much information for veterans to find the movie interesting. So really, it's made for no one. This also means that it can't be judged on its own merits, because the movie is clinging to the series with dear life. This movie is an utter waste of time where no one changes, it's all flat and boring, and it's really just a final send-off of Rebecca Sugar, basically telling us that she can't come up with anything else for her characters to do. So she just put on a fresh coat of paint with a few musical notes and calls it something new. I find it a waste of time for us as an audience, and at the time of the hardworking animators. I really wish I could cover everything that's wrong with this movie, but I know that I've already put much more effort into this than Rebecca's put into her own characters. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you later. Bye.